Okay, everybody, it's question and answer time. Who's up first? All right, lady in the striped top.
This question's for Carrie. Carrie, with dizziness, the only time that I really see it with my mother is going from the lay down to the sit-up position. Is there any exercises that I can make sure she focuses on before getting out of bed to alleviate that?
That's a great question. So if we kind of move aside from all of the movement types of disorders, if we think just about the inner ear system, something that typically causes dizziness moving from a sitting to a lying down position or the reverse is something called positional vertigo. Basically, there are crystals in every single one of ours inner ear that can get displaced into places where they don't belong, and it activates receptors that are kind of getting overactivated and can cause that vertigo sensation. There's not typically an exercise that you can do at home that's safe for the person to do on their own. They kind of need some help with it. To get the crystals back to where they belong, it actually requires a certain type of maneuver, in which case I would still recommend kind of visiting a vestibular therapist to do that. That being said, once the person's crystals are back in the spot where they belong in the inner ear, there can be some motion sensitivity, in which case definitely there are some exercises to help address that. I will touch base with you guys afterwards because I know that you guys have some kind of specific things going on, so touch base with you guys later.
Question?
Would impaired perception have anything to do with visual problems, or is that something else?
Perception in what way?
Spatial perceptions are not looking at things level, or thinking they're level and they're not.
Yeah, so sometimes that can be something that's kind of more involved with the central nervous system. Other times, if it's true like depth perception issues, that could also be involved with some of that convergence insufficiency that we talked about before, where the two eyes are not coming in together like they should be. So it really just depends on, you know, the type of misperceptions that are happening. If it's depth perception, could be the eyes. If it's more like I can't tell what's vertical or not, could be an inner ear problem, or could just be a processing issue altogether.
Is there a way to fix that was the question?
Yeah, so again, it depends on what's going on there. If it's a convergence insufficiency issue, there are definitely exercises to be able to work on that. If it's a vertical tilt issue, so if I think my vertical is over here and I'm trying to place things on that vertical, there are again some exercises to try to work on that. If it's kind of a strictly a processing issue, it just depends on the person. Whether that's something that will get better with practice, or if it's something that's kind of, you know, like we've talked about before, something that we need to compensate for and try to address that way.
I know. It's called vertigo.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had several PTs check it out, and two of them apparently was doing it the wrong way, laying on the table and like twisting your head like this. You're like sick after that. Have you, with vertigo, and I was in the hospital because it was really bad. Do you know any exercises?
Yeah, so it sounds like...
I'm sorry, could the panel please repeat the question for the audience?
Sure. So she was mentioning that she's had some problems with vertigo in the past, and that she was having what it sounds like is an Epley maneuver, which is, again, to address a positional vertigo issue where the crystals are loose from the head. It sounds like they were trying to treat it that way, but she was wondering if there were any other exercises that could treat that differently, and certainly there are. So not everybody that has vertigo has crystals that are out of place. That's just one cause out of the many things that can cause that particular symptom. So again, it's very based on the individual and what types of deficits they're having with the inner ear system. But there could be potentially some exercises to help address that.
Any more questions?
Can you repeat the apps that was on that slide?
I can
Previously.
I can pull it up for you. So there's a lot of different ones that are available either through like Apple or Android. But I can try to print them out for you and give you the list later on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I went to the doctor, and she had this machine that you sit in, and it goes around supposedly to stable the crystals. I was too afraid to do it.
Sure. It's like being on your own personal roller coaster.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I thought it would make me more dizzy.
Yeah, and that can certainly be one way to treat a positional vertigo issue. But again, that's one of many things that can cause people to have vertigo. So if your symptoms are popping up other than like when you lie down or roll over, it could be something else that's causing that trouble.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question, Bobby. I went to physical therapy until December, and the man said that I needed a foot brace to keep my foot, lined up. And my toes were like getting kind of crunchy. And so I went ahead and got it, but my doctor wanted me to get the Botox to my leg done, but I didn't want to do that. So do you think that the physical therapist is going to be happy that I got the brace instead, or should have gotten the Botox?
Yeah, I think as Dr. Boyce was talking about this morning, there's some more conservative ways that we can manage the dystonia, that abnormal kind of cramping, or sometimes we'll call it a toe curling dystonia, and it might end up actually aligning the ankle and the entire foot into this supinated or twisted position. It sounds like that might be how your foot's being positioned. So bracing might help hold you in that position, that corrected way that your foot can then strike the ground more naturally. There might be some splinting or bracing options that you wear overnight or while you're sitting for long periods to help try and correct it so that it doesn't continually drift into a maladapted position. Something that I've been recommending for folks just more conservatively would be toe splints or things that help kind of splay the toes outward so that you're not curling over or getting that overlap of the toes themselves, because that can make your balance a little bit more impaired if your toes aren't in full contact with the ground. So it sounds like the bracing might be an appropriate option, and then to keep trialing those things if you're not pursuing Botox or some other treatment.
Where do you get a toe splint from?
CVS, Amazon. I've been recommending one that's called Yoga Toes recently. So I think they're $20 or $24. I tried them myself. They do splay your toes, and it can be kind of uncomfortable, but I needed it to see what it was like before I recommended it to a patient. So some options like that are cheaper alternatives to, a major procedure. Welcome.
This is for Bobby, too. When you talked about exercising your brain in addition to your body, do you have any apps or anything that you think are good for?
I do use a lot of different apps and technologies with our therapies. It's hard to make more of a blanket statement because it depends on what aspects of cognition or attention are impaired. So if it's more of a reaction or attention issue, maybe I'll use reactive lights or triggers that'll pop up during our session that you have to then quickly attend to. As Carrie was mentioning, like quickly turning your head and recognizing the stimulus. If it's more of a memory issue, so trying to do sustained recall and things like that, there are specific apps for it, but I would need more of a full evaluation to make those recommendations appropriately.
Okay.
But it's definitely out there, and I incorporate it with a lot of home exercise programs.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we'll go into closing remarks. I have a couple. One, you all have surveys in front of you, and if you do not, there's extras out at the registration desk. If you wouldn't mind filling those out and dropping those off in the tiny little bin on the chair by the door, that would be fantastic. Two, the slides you saw today, we are going to turn into PDFs, and I will let you all know when those are ready to go. And when the videos are edited and put into our YouTube library, I will email everybody as well. Please take home all of those materials that's on the table out there. I don't want to ship them back to New York. And finally, we really appreciate you guys coming out today. We wouldn't be able to put on events like this without supporters like you. If there's anything you need from me, my contact information is going to be on the program. And does anybody up here have any closing remarks?
No, I guess we'll just make sure that we share all of our email addresses with everyone too. If we can help kind of identify specialty providers for you in your area, or if you're local and we could be those providers, we would definitely want to help whenever we can. So I'll make sure to get that information out too.
All right. Thanks for coming out, everybody.